What's up, everyone? My name is Tyler Adolfo. I am 27 years old, and I have a diagnosis of bipolar type 1 with psychotic features. Living with bipolar disorder presents a myriad of daunting challenges. In my view, the most uncomfortable aspect of having bipolar disorder, the aspect which can hamper an individual's hope, is that bipolar disorder is permanent. There is no known cure. It is a lifelong illness. And with any lifelong illness, it naturally comes with a great deal of struggle. And in the face of struggle, perseverance is required in order to confront and get through that adversity. In order to have some sense of normalcy, to find balance, it requires tremendous perseverance when dealing with any type of illness. But this is especially true with a severe mental health disorder like bipolar disorder. And one of the key components that makes it so challenging, at least for me, is that I have this fear that mania will happen again at some point in my life. I had a 6 month long manic episode that robbed me of my sanity, during which I had a wide array of delusions and hallucinations, and I said a wide range of embarrassing things which I'm ashamed of and still feel a lot of guilt and embarrassment about. And there were a lot of life altering consequences from my manic episode. I got kicked out of college. I had to move back in with my mom. I lost my full time job. And I had a 2 year depressive period that followed my manic episode. So this was a huge disruption to my life. And even though I'm doing better now and I'm at a great place in terms of my recovery and the progress I've made, how far I've come compared to where I once was, is certainly admirable. However, what if it does happen again? What if, despite taking my medication, I'm one of the unlucky few who still has to endure yet another manic episode? I have a lot of ambitious plans in my life. I want to return to college. I want to go to law school. I want to become an attorney. I want to give a voice to people who struggle to fight for themselves. With aspirations such as those, there comes the possibility of high amounts of stress, and stress can be a trigger for mania. And that's the last thing I want. It's another manic episode. I might have one when I return to college. I might have one when I go for my Juris Doctor. I might have one when I'm a practicing attorney. You never know when a manic episode is going to come, and certainly there's warning signs, but if someone falls into full-blown mania, it's difficult to get them out because that's where they start to lose discernment. They lack the insight to know that there's something wrong with them. And I really don't know if I can deal with the life-altering consequences that come with a full-blown manic episode again. It took me so long to rebuild. I'm still rebuilding. Years after this manic episode ended, I still feel depressed at times because of what happened. Everything that transpired was so profoundly traumatizing, and I don't want to endure that again. The shame and guilt that I feel, I sense that, like my bipolar disorder, it's going to be with me permanently. Perhaps it will diminish in severity over time in terms of how guilty I feel, how ashamed I feel. Because at the end of the day, I do know that it's not my fault I have this condition. But not everybody else realizes that. And how others perceive me is of critical importance to my well-being. And maybe that's not the most healthy thing, but you know what? That's just the way that I view the world. I want people to like me. I want people to think I'm a good person. I mean, I want to be a good person. But bipolar disorder can really affect how people view you. Even just the words bipolar disorder carry such a tremendous stigma and weight. It's not just the burden of the illness, it's the burden of the stigma on top of the burden of the illness. Through my battles with bipolar disorder, I have learned that there are ways to combat the challenges that come with the illness. So despite being a lifelong illness, there are things that can be done to mitigate the effects, to mitigate the detrimental effects that can take place. And one of those things is having a healthy set of effective coping mechanisms. This is going to look different for everyone, but for myself, healthy coping mechanisms look like exercise, reading, playing video games, meditation, consistent sleep. All of these are essential for myself, and I think that they could be very beneficial to a lot of people, not just people with bipolar disorder, but especially so for people with bipolar disorder. And, you know, hobbies might look different for a different person. Instead of playing video games, it might be, I don't know, playing chess or some type of board game, or maybe they're interested in some type of geopolitical trend and they want to follow that. Whatever you adhere to, it's important to have coping mechanisms, to have hobbies, because anhedonia can creep in. You can start to lose your passions because of the stress of this illness. And one of the ways that I reduce the possibility of anhedonia creeping in, one of the ways that I reduce the probability of mania creeping in, is I take a series of medications which combat my social anxiety, combat my depression, and so I take antipsychotic, I take depression, I take mood stabilizers. The actual medications I take, I've had this particular medication cocktail for a while and it's been effective for me. It doesn't mean it will be effective for others. And I cannot stress this enough. For those who want to try medication, it can be life-changing, but don't give up hope if it doesn't work right away. It took a long time for me to find the right medications, to find the medications that work in conjunction with one another effectively for my body and mind. It's going to be different for everybody. So just because the medications that I take work, it doesn't mean they will for someone else, but it's possible that they will work for someone else, or they might take some different combination. But the medications that I take are Wellbutrin, escitalopram. I also take Vraylar, and I take lamotrigine. Those are the 4 current medications that I take for mental health, and I feel like they've been impactful in a very positive way for myself. I've been able to maintain a job, and that's something I'll talk about in another video, how I've been able to maintain a job with bipolar disorder, because it's not just medications. Medications are a major part of it, but there's other things that I do in order to increase the chances of me maintaining a job. So coping mechanisms, which vary for everyone. Medications, which are going to vary for different people. What's going to work for one might not work for another. And the third thing and final thing I want to mention is having a support system. This is so key. A sense of belonging, sense of peer approval. These are, in my view, basic human desires. And sense of belonging can be bestowed by having positive associations of people who are supportive, understanding, and empathetic of your situation. And it's easier said than done to find people like that. For some, it's going to be easier than others. In my case, the people that I talk to are primarily my cousins, of course, my psychiatrist. I don't have a therapist anymore because all the therapists at my place actually quit or got fired, and there's no more. They had some kind of like hiring fair and nobody showed up. So I'm not sure when I'll have another therapist again, but I think it's helpful to an extent. Not as much as medications have been helpful for me, but or as helpful as venting to my cousins has been for me. But I know for others it's profoundly impactful in a positive way. So it's nothing to negate, it's nothing to downplay in terms of how effective it can be, because for some people it's extremely effective. But having a support system, and even if you don't have family that you can go to, if you don't have friends you can go to, I don't really have friends right now, so I rely heavily on my family, but I understand some don't even have family that they can go to. So one thing you can do is online support groups. And there's different ones. There's the National Alliance for Mental Illness. There's the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. I'm sure there's scores of other organizations out there that do something similar. But these two organizations in particular host free online virtual groups where you can attend as often as you like, and you can meet other people and get that sense of belonging and feel a greater sense of purpose, knowing that you're not alone in this battle, that there's other people enduring the same struggles that you are. And you can also learn that there's hope out there, because in some cases there's people in these groups who've turned their lives around in the aftermath of a severe mental health episode or through the duration of combating a mental illness, and they've been able to overcome and achieve success despite the challenges that come with the cards they've been dealt. So never give up hope, never surrender hope. That's one of my favorite mottos that I actually learned from one of these groups, from a NAMI group, National Alliance for Mental Illness. Never surrender hope. And I'll add my own quote in here. I've added this to a few of my videos now. It's a quote that I adhere to strongly, and that is by President Calvin Coolidge: "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." So, bipolar disorder is lifelong, but that doesn't mean it has to control our lives. It doesn't have to define ourselves. So don't allow bipolar disorder to defeat you. Keep on fighting, keep on persisting, keep on believing in yourself. Don't knock yourself. It's not your fault. You can do this. Just stay locked in. Try to be positive. Don't be too hard on yourself.